Tears everywhere. Shinyu walks out on Dylan after his mother's cruel words. The room was suffocatingly silent, except for the sharp, unforgiving words that had just escaped Dylan Wang's mother's lips. Those words, cruel as daggers, cut through the fragile atmosphere, leaving Shinyu trembling in disbelief. It was as though time froze, and the world tilted on its axis. The once warm and hopeful evening had transformed into a battlefield of emotions. Shen Yu's eyes glistened with tears she fought desperately to hold back, but the strength that usually carried her seemed to crumble. Dylan, frozen in shock, turned to his mother with fury burning in his gaze. Yet before he could utter a defense, Shen Yu's voice broke the silence. "Enough," she whispered, her voice trembling yet steady enough to pierce the room. "I can't keep doing this, Dylan." Gasps filled the room as Shen Yue clutched her chest, her face pale. The words that shattered the night. Dylan's mother, with a sternness that had grown harsher over the weeks, had just delivered the unthinkable. "You are not good enough for my son. You will never be accepted in this family." The weight of those words was unbearable. Shen Yue staggered back, as though she had been physically struck. The warmth of Dylan's protective hand on hers no longer felt strong enough to shield her from the rejection that came so forcefully. For weeks, whispers and subtle disapprovals had shadowed their relationship. Dylan had fought tooth and nail to keep Shen Yue close, but his mother's disdain had now erupted into a storm that could no longer be hidden. And in that moment, the choice Shen Yue made stunned everyone. She walked away. The heartbreaking walkout. The sound of her heels echoed against the marble floor as Shen Yue turned away, her tears streaming freely now. Dylan reached for her hand desperately. "Shen Yue, please, don't go. Not like this." His voice cracked, desperation clawing through every syllable. But Shen Yue pulled back, her sobs shaking her body. She turned once more to face him, her expression a mixture of love, pain, and finality. "I love you, Dylan," she whispered, her voice breaking, "but I cannot fight your family every single day. I'm tired of proving myself when I've done nothing wrong. I need to protect my heart before it shatters completely." The words landed like thunderbolts. The crowd of family members and close associates who had witnessed the chaos could not believe what they were hearing. And just like that, Shen Yue stormed out of the room, leaving Dylan paralyzed, his chest tightening as though the world itself had caved in. Dylan's silent breakdown. The door slammed behind her, the reverberation echoing in Dylan's ears like a cruel reminder of what had just happened. For a moment, he stood frozen, his fists clenched, his knuckles turning white. Then, in a sudden, uncontrollable wave of emotion, Dylan collapsed onto his knees. "No, no, no, no," he muttered, his voice breaking into sobs. His friends rushed to his side, but Dylan shoved them away, his eyes red and swollen, his breath ragged. His mother, meanwhile, stood motionless, her face stone cold, though for a brief second, just a second, a flicker of guilt washed over her expression. But Dylan was beyond reason. He rose to his feet, stormed toward his mother, and with a voice that shook the house, roared, "Do you see what you've done? You've pushed away the one person who makes me happy. Are you proud now?" Shen Yu's lonely walk. Outside, Shen Yue staggered down the dimly lit street, her tears blurring the city lights into shapeless blobs. Every step felt heavier than the last. She clutched her chest, gasping for air as though the pain of rejection had physically lodged itself in her heart. She remembered every smile Dylan had given her, every promise whispered in the quiet of night. And yet, here she was alone, broken, and walking away from the man she loved more than life itself. Onlookers who recognized her whispered in shock as she passed by, her face streaked with tears, her shoulders shaking violently. "What happened?" one murmured. "She looks heartbroken." Did Dylan hurt her? Another speculated. The world outside had no clue of the storm that had just torn their love story apart. The confrontation. Back inside, Dylan's rage had reached its peak. He slammed his fists against the dining table, sending glasses crashing to the ground. His mother gasped but held her ground. "Dylan, you'll thank me one day. That girl will never understand the pressures of your world. She's not. Don't you dare." Dylan cut her off, his voice raw with pain. "Don't you ever say she's not good enough. She's everything. She's more than I'll ever deserve, and you've ruined it." The room fell into silence, the tension unbearable. Dylan's mother faltered, her lips trembling, but her pride held her back from admitting defeat. And in that silence, Dylan made a vow, one that sent chills down the spines of everyone present. I don't care what it takes. I will bring her back. Even if it means choosing her over this family. Shinyu collapses in tears. Meanwhile, Shinyu found herself at the edge of a quiet park. The weight of the evening finally broke her completely. She collapsed onto a bench, burying her face in her hands as sobs racked her body. Images of Dylan, his smile, his laugh, his warmth haunted her. She wanted to run back, to cling to him, to never let go. But the pain of his mother's words was too fresh, too sharp. I can't keep doing this, she whispered to herself, as though saying it aloud would convince her heart to let go. But deep down, she knew her love for Dylan was not something that could be erased overnight. A witness to the pain. What Shen Yue didn't realize was that paparazzi had caught every moment of her tearful exit. Photographs of her sobbing walk down the street spread across social media within minutes. Shen Yue leaves Dylan in tears after family confrontation, tears everywhere. Shen Yue walks away from Dylan Wang. Fans flooded comment sections with heartbreak, outrage, and confusion. Some sided with Shen Yue, calling her brave for walking away. Others begged Dylan to fight harder for her. And amidst the storm, one thing became clear: this love story was far from over. Dylan's desperate search. As night fell, Dylan stormed out of his house, ignoring his family's pleas to stay. He drove recklessly through the city, his hands gripping the steering wheel with trembling fury. Where are you, Shen Yue? He whispered into the night. Please, don't leave me like this. His calls went unanswered, his texts left unread. With every minute, the panic grew, his fear gnawing at him like a relentless shadow. But Dylan wasn't ready to give up. Not now. Not ever. The aftermath of Shen Yue's walkout. The door had slammed, the echo still haunting the luxurious living room like a ghost that refused to leave. Shen Yue was gone, and with her departure, the fragile fabric of peace inside the Wang family's home had been ripped apart. For a moment, no one moved. The guests, frozen in shock, avoided eye contact, afraid to breathe in the heavy silence that followed her walkout. Dylan Wang stood rooted to the spot, his body trembling, his fists clenched so tightly that his knuckles blanched. His mother, though defiant in posture, felt the weight of what had just transpired, but pride sealed her lips shut. Dylan's silent explosion. It was only when Dylan took a single step forward, his eyes glassy with unshed tears, that the storm broke loose. Do you even realize what you've done? His voice thundered, bouncing off the walls with such force that several people flinched. His mother, still standing stiff and proud, raised her chin. I did what had to be done. That girl. Stop calling her that girl, Dylan roared, his voice cracking with fury. Her name is Shen Yue. And she is the only person who's ever loved me for who I am, not for my name, not for my fame, not for what this family can give. He pounded his fist against the table, rattling the glasses that remained unbroken. The rage, the sorrow, the desperation, it all poured out in a tidal wave. Mother versus son. His mother's eyes narrowed, her tone cold. You're blinded, Dylan. She's not one of us. She doesn't belong in this world. One day, you'll thank me for protecting you from a mistake. But Dylan's face twisted in disbelief, his voice almost breaking. A mistake. His chest rose and fell in sharp bursts as tears finally broke free. Do you really think love is a mistake? Do you think happiness is something to be calculated, weighed, and measured by status? His friends, who had been silent spectators, exchanged worried glances. Never had they seen Dylan this raw, this stripped of his usual composure. He stepped closer to his mother, his voice now a trembling whisper. She was ready to give up everything for me. And you drove her away. You destroyed us. The guests' shock. Whispers rippled through the room as the reality of what had just unfolded sunk in. Some guests covered their mouths in disbelief, others shook their heads, torn between loyalty to Dylan's mother and compassion for the broken young man before them. One older relative tried to intervene. Dylan, calm down. You must understand your mother. But Dylan cut him off with a glare so fierce it silenced the room. No. Don't defend her. Not when the woman I love just walked out in tears because of her cruelty. The weight of his words hung in the air, leaving the entire gathering in stunned silence. Dylan's collapse. Suddenly, as though the rage had drained the very life out of him, Dylan stumbled backward and collapsed into a chair. His head fell into his hands, his shoulders shaking violently. I can't lose her, he whispered hoarsely. I can't. Tears streamed through his fingers, dripping onto the polished floor. He looked nothing like the strong, confident star the public adored. He looked like a broken man, shattered by the weight of love and rejection. His friends rushed to his side, but Dylan shoved them away. His grief was not something he could share. It was raw, private, and burning. His mother's hidden guilt. Across the room, Dylan's mother stood still, her face expressionless, but deep within her eyes, a storm brewed. She remembered the fire in Shen Yue's eyes when she declared she couldn't keep fighting. She remembered the look of despair on her son's face as he begged her not to go. For the first time, doubt crept into her chest. Was she truly protecting her son, or had she just destroyed the only happiness he had? But pride, that relentless shield, kept her silent. Shen Yue's shadow lingers. Even in her absence, Shen Yue's presence filled the room. The chair she had sat in was still slightly pushed back, her unfinished glass of water still glistening under the chandelier. Dylan's eyes locked onto that glass, and fresh tears blurred his vision. It was as though every trace of her screamed at him, reminding him of what he had just lost. Shen Yue, he murmured, his voice breaking. Dylan's vow. After what felt like hours of suffocating silence, Dylan finally lifted his head. His eyes were bloodshot, his face pale, but his voice was resolute. No, he said firmly, his tone cutting through the air like steel. This isn't the end. I will not let this be the end. His friends leaned in, confused. Dylan stood, his hands trembling but his stance unyielding. I don't care what it takes. I don't care if I lose everything else. I'm going to find her. And I'll fight for her until she believes in us again. The determination in his voice sent chills down the spines of everyone in the room. This wasn't just a declaration, it was a vow, a promise carved in pain and love.